Heart Chakra 101. So the heart is the fourth chakra. It's also considered the love or the air chakra. In Sanskrit, the term is anahata, I believe, anahata, and it's translated to mean unstruck or intact. And I think scholars have considered it to be like the place of the unstruck sound. Thinking of an instrument, it's the place of the unplucked or struck sound, something like that. So something to do with heartstrings not having to be played or something. So at the heart of the chakra, the heart center, is the idea of balance, right? As we stated in previous videos, the heart is actually the center, right, of our being, of our chakra centers. It's actually between all of our chakras, right? So we have 7 chakras. We have 3 on the bottom, lower chakras, and then we have 3 higher chakras. And the lower ones, of course, we've mentioned is the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus chakra, having everything to do with our physical bodies and grounding and balance. And then we have the upper 3 chakras, which have everything to do with the mentality, right? We have the throat chakra, the third eye, and the our 7th chakra, which is our crown, which have more to do with like the internal processes, right? Like intuition and, as I stated, thinking, mental state, spiritual parts of our being. And so the heart is what is the balancing place between these 2 parts, our lower parts of the chakra system and the upper parts. And the heart actually plays like a communication center for all of the chakras, right? It helps us to not only to be not too heady, right? Not too much up here, but also not too physical either, not too much down here. Kind of have like a sense of balance between, our mental being and our physical being, between our head and our body, but also balancing that out as well with kind of like this energy of love and compassion. And so the heart chakra is associated with the air element and has to do with things like in the breathing area, the breathing space, right? Not only the physical heart that pumps blood through our bodies, but also elements in the body like the lungs, the entire cardiovascular system, and also the prana, the air that comes through and out, that life force, right? Actually moving in and out in different parts of the body. This comes from the heart center. And I guess some would think of it as like a grand station center, or grand central station is what I meant to say, things coming in and going out, right? The center of communication. And for this particular chakra, the heart chakra, the color is green. And the traditional lotus flower is actually a 12-petal lotus flower. The seed mantra for this chakra is Y-A-N-G, which is spelled, or it sounds like yang. And hearing this sound, of course, just like all of the other mantras, activates and awakens the heart chakra. It energizes that part of the chakra system. Okay, so let's talk about love, right? So of course, we've all heard of sayings about love, how it makes the world go round, and it's all the world needs, and it's the answer, right? We've all been actually doused with the idea of love. You know, we think of the music and all the love songs and the serenades that happen with music. You know, it's all doused with these ideas of how we love and how we see love, and how we sometimes can find ourselves playing songs over and over and over again, right? And then in the movies, we think of movies and TV and the shows that we watch that are shows that have stories that contain some deep level of, you know, the idea of love or the theology of love. Some of them, you know, bring us to tears. You know, it causes us to sometimes reevaluate our own value system, or whatever it is that we actually champion about things like, you know, being in love and being married for 70 or 80 years, even to the end of time, you know, of our lifetime rather. But, you know, things like true love and soulmates and love at first sight and romance, you know, we have this huge ability to house this idea, and it's just an idea, basically. It's how we think about this concept. It's the best way that we can describe this energy, and it is in fact a very real energy, but it's the word that we choose to describe that energy. We have this huge space that's able to contain that idea that we call love, and it's so big that even we can actually apply it even past our own species. You know, when we talk about the different kingdoms, you know, we can actually go into different kingdoms and actually attach that idea of love. You know, we extend it into the animal kingdom. How much do we love our pets, our cats and our dogs and our rabbits and snakes? You know, we can pass it into the plant kingdom. How do we love our plants? I'm becoming a plant lover. Even Earth itself, we cultivate this relationship and this mutual feeling with the elements too, all the way up to even the galaxies and the cosmos, everything that's up and above. Like, we have the capacity to extend this idea of love to anything that has the ability to receive. And it all comes from this space, the heart chakra, right? And then on the other side of that is the loss of it. And having to deal with the disappointment behind the broken heart. How many of us has ever been brokenhearted? It's almost like you can literally feel something wrenching, being wrenched in your chest. Like, you can literally feel it. Even though it's an energy or a concept, you can feel it. If you've ever suffered from a broken heart, you know what I mean, right? You can literally feel it. There's like something inside of you that's fleshly that you can feel literally, and it hurts and it throbs, right? That's the fourth chakra, the heart chakra, and it's feelings of grief and it's feelings of pain and that feeling of being shattered, right? It's very, very real. And it's something, again, that cannot be measured or pinpointed by like any type of medical equipment. You know, the doctors can't examine you and be like, oh, you're suffering from heartache. You know, they can't look at this part, this feeling with MRIs or through CT scans, right? It's said that the heart chakra may actually be the chakra that we even shut down the most out of all of the chakras. And we do that in a way of like preserving self, or a way of protecting ourselves. And I guess this is definitely a method of kind of shielding or covering ourselves, can sometimes even turn into like a level of isolation and disconnection from, different things that we need, like connections and relationships, things that we need to survive. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Oh, excuse me. So there's many, many beautiful things that come out of this chakra, this heart space. One of which is healing power. And this is so awesome. The fourth chakra, energy naturally flows, right? It flows around this area, the heart, the lungs, but not only does it flow around the heart chakra area, this energy from the heart chakra actually flows out through our hands, the palms of our hands, right? So when the heart chakra is strong and vibrant and energized, right, you can actually have this heightened sense of healing power in your hands, right? Or it could be a subtle power as well, but it's definitely there. And I can't help but think about a mother or a father with their magical touch, especially when there's a child that has a little accident or a wound or a little boo-boo, and here comes the mother along and they touch it, and rub it a little bit with their hands, right? And it's almost like an immediate change. It's like magic. It's like almost immediately it's better, everything is better. Or even better yet, a grandmother. How awesome is that, right? A grandmother. And so there's nothing better than that. And there's just this very natural healing ability that many times we don't even realize that we have, And this healing flows through our body from the heart center, right? And this is also one of the best ways to really love ourselves as well, or even make ourselves strong or stronger or healthy or healthier. And then from there, we can extend that outwardly, right? From there, then we can extend it outwardly. So there's many different ways that we can use that healing power, that healing energy that's cultivated within the heart space. We can even use it to speed up healing. How many of y'all know that? Of our own bodies or others too. But, many times there's been like an ache or something in my body, and I've taken my hand and the intention and I've laid it on that part of my body and sent love, right? From churning the energy in my heart chakra. And guess what? Before I realize it, I don't feel pain no more. I have forgotten all about the fact that I was in pain. It works. It works, right? And so, but it speaks to this healing energy that we naturally have flowing within us, right? That actually comes from the heart chakra center, right here. It's so amazing. And then the heart chakra has impulses that are born out of love as well. Not just love itself, but things, offshoots of love, like compassion, being able to live life in kind of a loving, kind, gentle, generous, and compassionate way as it pertains to others in your life, right? that means that the heart chakra is actually open, right? Not too open, right? Because it may lead to other things in a negative aspect if it's too open, right? But if it's open enough, we may want to do things like show that openly, go volunteer and do some charity work, or it could be even something even more intimate within yourself, like being available for your friends or family who may want or need an ear. They may need some type of assistance. That may also include us being able to share compassion in that way, not only outwardly, but even for ourselves, right? When we sit and write or we sit and talk with ourselves, that's showing compassion and being able to love yourself as well, okay? So one of the major areas of lessons that when we decide to combine our lives with someone else is the ability to coexist or share our lives with someone else. I feel like this is one of the areas where a level of compassion is not only challenged, but it's also strengthened, if I can say that, because that's a hard thing to do. That's a difficult thing to do. Along with that comes things that we bring to the table, like expectation, and when that is not realized, then there's that level of disappointment when things don't line up with what we have expected or with what we thought it would be, or even what we have been taught or what we learned, what we saw growing up, those kinds of expectations. So it becomes kind of like a challenge, the way that we think about our connection or relation with others, which also brings room for growth, right? Yeah, there's always room for growth. And then going back to being too open in the heart chakra, there's also compassion, where we try to be everything to everybody. We're too compassionate, right? And compassion actually takes over everything in our lives. And this energy wants to do and help and become, and it's this overriding energy for everything and everyone, which leads to, how many of us had to learn this the hard way, leads to imbalance in our own lives, right? So there's definitely some things to consider as it pertains to compassion, right? This offshoot of love. And then that also leads me to the idea of taking care of you, taking care of self. A lot of people would say that you can't even love someone else until you love yourself. Is that true? I don't know. I guess it's open for debate or discussion. There's different opinions about that, but whether you can or whether you can't love somebody until you can love yourself, the fact of the matter is, even if you are able or you manage to be able to give love to someone else without giving it to yourself, it's probably going to be a distorted love. It's going to show up very needy. It may show up very clingy. And kind of like an immature love with conditions, right? And it's not going to have that sense of autonomy within self from a full heart, right? And the way that you're loving is going to be a reflection, the way that you're loving yourself of how you love others, or the way that you are loving others is going to be a reflection of how well you're loving yourself. Not that you can't love others without loving yourself, but it's going to look very much in the same way that you're kind of giving that energy to yourself, if that makes sense. And so basically, we are in, first and foremost in relationships with ourselves, first and foremost. And it's a reflection of everything that we do outside of ourselves as it pertains to connecting with others, right? It's coming from here, from inside of us. And so how we speak to ourselves and how we nurture and care for ourselves is obviously going to be reflected in how we speak and love one another or love others, or how we care for others. For some reason, most people would say that they're more critical and judgmental and harsher towards themselves. And I could definitely see that, especially for like artists. Like, we could be our worst critic, which is more of the reason to allow that love to really start with self intentionally, right? Because again, it's going to be reflected from inwardly outwardly, right? And so if more people, more of us, were more cognizant and conscious of how we are intentionally loving ourselves, chances are we can be more aware or more able to love, those outside of us better. Okay. Now, yeah, that's what I was saying about love and not being able to love self or nurture self and be compassionate with our own needs and desires. There's like a sense of, like incompleteness within the heart. There's something missing within the heart chakra. And there's like this lack of vibrancy as well, many times. And it shows through in our posture sometimes. Sometimes we're like all slumped over and the head is kind of protruding forward over the body and the shoulders are kind of like caved in and slumped over, kind of leaning forward. And it's almost like the body conveying a message, that there's the guarding of the heart. There's some level of distrust, or there is not only the heart, but even the solar plexus, which is our source of power, personal power. And so there's a level of being aware and conscious as to how we're positioning and posturing and structuring our body that can kind of open up, right? And be open, more open in the heart chakra space and in the solar plexus, if you're aware of it. I'm one that has to work on this because I'm naturally just a very relaxed person, but it's like, stand up, hold your head up, hold your chest out, stand like you are open, be open to receive, and it has a lot to do with how we're posturing our body, allowing that energy to not only be let out, but also come back in. And I also feel like that's where yoga comes in as well. It kind of helps us to be conscious and connect to our bodies and our breath and train our bodies, and helps us to be aware of what's happening, at any given point in time in our bodies. And like anything else, there's this natural flow that goes out of the heart chakra and it automatically comes back, right? There's this natural flow. And just like we're able to give that love, right? We're able to release it. We're also able to receive it. Both of them are equally as important, I believe. And instead of just thinking of the heart chakra as something that gives, or outpours, it's actually a complete cycle is how we can think of it. Not just going one way or coming, but it's a complete cycle. And so think of like a mountaintop where snow gathers at some point. And then once the sun comes out or it reaches a certain temperature, that snow begins to melt. It gets hot enough and it begins to melt and run down the mountainside. And then it turns into this great body of water down in below the mountains. And then that body of water evaporates under intense heat as well. And so what happens is the heat that forms around the water actually accumulates clouds or like a mist, and then it floats back up to the mountaintop. And at the mountaintop, guess what happens? It turns into snow again. And then guess what happens? It starts the cycle all over again. It melts, turns into the river of water or the body of water, and then it goes right back up. Condensation, right? And so it's a complete cycle. Not only does it flow outwardly, but it also flows and comes back right where, where it started. It's a continual cycle, right? And so this has really given me vibes of thinking of that saying. And I think it's a biblical saying that says, out of the heart flows the issues of life, right? Meaning whatever it is that we put out is actually flowing back to us naturally. I love that. I love that saying too. And so I also wanted to go into some correspondences for chakra. And so let's do that, shall we? Okay, so some of the correspondences with the heart chakra are for animals. We have antelopes, doves, mammals, or mammals with 4 legs, right? And then for the archangels, we have Raphael and Shamael. For the body, it's the astral body. Okay. The color is green, which we mentioned already. The element is air. The food is going to be leafy green vegetables, which I'm about to have in a moment here. Like kale, spinach, lettuce, broccoli, celery, cabbage, squash, greens. And one of my favorites is asparagus. Yeah. For the herbs and spices, we have basil, thyme, cilantro, and parsley and green tea. And then for gemstones or crystals, it would be the emerald. These are like greenish stones, right? Jade, malachite, green tourmaline, or other green stones as well. When we talk about goddesses or goddesses associated with the heart chakra, I would say Aphrodite, Eros, Jesus Christ, Krishna, Lakshmi, which we hear a lot about Lakshmi, and Vishnu, I think is the name, especially when we're talking about the Kundalini. But I feel like somebody's missing from this list. I would add Venus to this list, okay? Carrying on. For herbs and spices, rue and saffron. For incense, lavender or jasmine. And the key word is obviously love, right? What else would it be? And the kinds of people would be teachers, people who delay their own enlightenment to help others reach enlightenment. And in Sanskrit, that is pronounced Buddhistavas. The metal would be copper, which makes so much sense because copper is a metal that actually not only keeps the brain firing, it keeps the electricity in the brain firing so that your synapses are on point. But it also works that way in the body as well. Like for the joints and the ligaments, it like keeps things sparking and connected in some kind of way, which is interesting. So get you some copper, okay? The musical note is in the key of F. And the number of lotus petals on this flower is 12. The plane of existence is the balance plane, right? Which makes sense because the heart is actually the balance of all of the chakras. The ruling planet is Venus. The seed sound, again, is Y-A-N-G, and it's pronounced yang. The sense is actually touch, which makes sense as well. The sense organ is skin. The shape is actually a hexagon, which is, I think a hexagon is 6 sides. And the tarot suit is swords, which is air, okay? And it's thinking energy. And the verb is to love. And then the vowel sound is ah, as in far, ah, or a as in play, a, ah, or a, right? So those are sounds that will appeal to the heart chakra. I wonder, I'm going to start listening to songs because we were talking a lot about music and TV. I wonder, is there a lot of the ah and a sound in love song, in music with love songs? So I'm going to have to check that out. See, my mind is always just going a step further. I can't just leave it simple, right? We got to do extra. And so those are the correspondences to the heart chakra, right? So beautiful. Thank you for coming along as we discover and learn together about the chakra system. It has been amazing. If you have not yet, I am releasing a 7-episode chakra series that is following along not only with mantra and meditation, but it's also giving videos like this, 101 information on more than just the practicality of it. Yeah, we do the meditation and we do the mantra, but to understand like what part of the body are we talking about when we're meditating? What part of the body are we attuning to and trying to connect with and awaken and energize, and how is that affecting not only our lives but even everything around us, because remember, everything is connected. And so we delve in just a little bit deeper just to find out what it is that we're talking about, right? And so if you haven't checked out the mantras and the meditation for the heart chakra, go over to the series list and take about 45 minutes out of your day to go to a place that's nice and quiet where you won't be disturbed, and give yourself some love, right? It can only benefit you. Give yourself some love. And so I hope you are enjoying this as much as I am. I will be releasing the next chakra meditation video very soon here, sometime this week. And so thank you so much for coming along and sharing in this energy of learning and discovery. And so until next time, take care of your heart.